Hey, you beautiful people. It is another incredible episode of Medshield Movement Connect show with me, Dr. Fez, still here, great here, and we have another phenomenal guest. Now, this is somebody who's going to help me understand self-love trainer, and also a yoga teacher, a personal trainer, and just all-around awesome individual, Jane Killian. Get ready to know what you don't know about being body brilliant. This is the Medshield Movement Connect show, where we connect the dots between fitness, health, wellness, nutrition, and of course you. Hosted by me, Dr. Fez Mkhize, and a special guest that we have every month, sharing knowledge, insights, and groundbreaking tips on how to get fitter, be stronger, and live healthier. Turn up the volume and listen close. Today you amplify. It's the Medshield Movement Connect show. Let's go. Jane, thank you so much for sitting down with us. I'm very excited because I know you are a wealth of knowledge when it comes to self-love.
I am. I'm the self-love queen.
Oh, I like this is what I want, the confidence there, and the fact that I probably don't have enough confidence when it comes to navigating the story of self. But where I like to start with a lot of people is, where did that journey begin for you? When were you conscious that you were actually entering into it?
Okay, so I think like most women and men, we have issues growing up, we get teased, we have all these self-doubts. So I had that growing up, as everyone else did. But then being a personal trainer, I heard every pain point during every session from every woman. So I've heard it all, trust me. I'm like a hairdresser, I've heard it all. Some things I wish I hadn't. And then the basis of all of that was not feeling good enough. And I think all of us can agree there's wherever, if it's work, if it's home, if it's relationships, if it's friends, there's always something where you just don't feel good enough. And so that was me listening to all these women every day for 14 years, and it just became this natural progression where one day I started yoga and I was doing a workshop and we were talking about the chakras. So that's a little bit of a woo-woo, the woo-woo side, but it was all about your solar plexus chakra, which is all about your self-worth and your self-confidence, and it just like intrigued me and it hooked me. And yeah, it was like a week, light bulbs just started going off, and I realized that I'd been talking to my clients as a self-love trainer the whole time, because I wasn't the typical six-pack trainer telling you not to eat this, not to eat that. I was like 80-20 lifestyle, eat the cake, do this, do that. So I was always telling them to look in the mirror and tell themselves that they feel like they've lost weight, or they look like they've lost weight, and convince themselves and speak kindly to themselves. So I'd been doing that as a personal trainer when they were working on the outside going in, and then to naturally progress from the inside out just made so much sense. So yeah, I had like thunderbolts of ideas, and I created Unselfishly Me. So from there, I created a self-love brand, and it slowly progressed from there. So it was me having my own doubts, to be honest. I came back from living overseas, and I had that Heathrow injection like everyone does. And it was coming back and seeing that people didn't take me seriously, or weren't interested in me, or looked at me differently, that made me feel like really bad about myself. And then when I tried to lose the weight in the gym, which I used to being in the gym, and I was doing it for the wrong reasons, it wasn't coming off. And then when I flipped it and started doing it for myself, it started coming off. So I was like, okay, there's something to this. I need to actually look after myself and put myself first, and start taking care of myself for myself, not for other people, and not look a certain way because I want someone to like me or be interested in me. I was doing it for the wrong reasons. And when I was doing it for the right reasons, it just, and it just started coming, and that for me, so I've never forgotten that. And that's why I tell people, even if you have to look in the mirror and convince yourself that you see a difference. And I was doing that with my clients, and it started working. So it kind of became this natural progression from training the outside to training the inside as well.
I mean, I love that you frame it that way. Thankfully, I'm also going to be completing my 300-hour yoga teacher training course. Yeah, it's coming from the place I come from in terms of performance and the aesthetic element, and then looking at the body and all of its multiple elements, and how that actually speaks to who you may be, and how you then present it to the world, hopefully to help others and make them feel better, is such a big shift. And I think for me, it's been a big shift, and I've been incubated in this time. For you, what were some of the points where you started to see it actually affected in life, over and above maybe how you were approaching losing weight or being in shape? Where did you see in your personal relationships that it was coming out?
Yeah, so when I came back from overseas and all that happened, there was still quite a few years before I started working at the gym at Vision Active, and doing all the the like heavy stuff, like the CrossFit and all those things, which is so interesting how you say that, because it is such a big shift. And I don't think people who go and do the yoga training understand when you come from a fitness background, like a hardcore fitness background, going into such a soft, so you're going from the masculine into the feminine, and it's
yin.
Yeah. So it's such a huge shift, and your mind has to shift as well. But so for me, shifting from that whole space, and I'm not saying this to have like, oh, so people are interested in you, but when you go from that whole I'm trying to lose weight so that people will be interested in me, and then you just don't care. It's like when you're younger and everyone says, well, if you want him to be interested in you, just act like you're not interested.
Just ignore it.
And that's when they come. And it was like suddenly I was just like, no thank you, I'm looking after him, I'm doing me now. And then people started getting interested in you. But yeah, it's just like I just didn't care about other people around me. I was focusing on myself, and it really did make a difference in my work especially. And I mean, that's how this whole brand came to be, I think, because I was just so focused on also helping others and trying to educate my clients on what I was feeling, what I had learned now, and saying you can do this too, you just need to think in this way. So it does affect, it like ripples out and affects others around you.
Definitely. I mean, not to say, of course, and this is what we always put as a caveat, like, it's great to be physically active and it's great to try to push yourself, but you also want to take care of all of those other elements. So then we move into self-love, because you are somebody who knows about that. But for me, and probably a lot more people at home, could you give me your definition? I sound like you on your podcast. Your definition of what you see as self-love.
So for me, it is living authentically as yourself. It's not changing yourself because the magazines say you should look this way or your partner says you need to behave in this way. It's being and feeling exactly who you're meant to be. So I walk around each day, and it took me years to get there, but like I walk around, I don't apologize for the way I dress or my hair or my actions or my words. I don't do that because I live exactly how I want to live every day, like unapologetically. And that's how unselfishly me, even the name, like it's not selfish to be who I want to be, and to allow yourself to be that person and to give yourself permission, because that's the thing. It's like everyone else can tell you, just do this, do that, you'll be amazing. But if you're not allowing yourself to be that person, you have to give yourself permission to do those things and to be that person. So it's being your true self and allowing your true self to come out, not like your ideal self who is who everyone else wants you to be or says you should be, or the magazines say you should be that, or you work in a corporate and they're like, you need to be like this, and you don't want to be like that because it's not who you are. So it's allowing yourself the freedom to be who you are meant to be or want to be.
So interesting, because we live in a time where there's so much noise. And I'm using this as kind of my own process to figure out who I am and trying to hopefully hear the voice a bit more. And I'm always listening to podcasts and kind of trying to listen to people. And I also feel like sometimes that might be adding to the noise. How would you suggest somebody figures out who they are, so they can better fight for that person, and hopefully we'll bounce off to figuring out boundary setting?
Yes.
But what are some of those initial processes that you find have helped yourself and your clients as well to be able to find that?
So exactly what you said, there's so much noise, like everything, your phone especially, I think we're all guilty of. Yeah. We are guilty of that.
Probably watching this on a phone.
Yeah, hey. So getting quiet. So if you can go away even for one night by yourself, I do that, but I have a child, so I do retreats for other people, so now I do solo retreats for myself. So I'll go every few months, I'll go for like one night away, and it's only when I do that that I feel like I can be quiet and actually ask myself, my throat chakra, did you see that?
Oh, yeah, I love
my throat chakra coming through. It's like
beautiful,
it's like
vibrations.
Speak the truth, girl. So it's all about getting quiet, because how can you ask yourself how you're feeling, how you're doing, what you want, what you need, when you have Netflix on, you scrolling your phone while you're trying to journal? You can't. When you're around people, you can't go quiet. And I mean, you learning this in your yoga. It's like the meditation is so important. So my first tip for people is to journal. And literally right there, who am I? Who do I want to be? What am I happy in my job? Like, what do I want to do with my life? It's like when we were children, we wrote, Dear Diary. So you ask those questions. So journaling is so powerful, and I don't think people learn how to do it properly. Do you know how to do it properly? You write a question and then you answer it. It's not that hard. So ask, who do I want to be? What do I want to change in my life? And you will answer it. It's not a conscious answering. It'll be like your higher self, so like your subconscious. You'll actually start answering, and you'll be so surprised what comes up. So asking those questions and trying to do 5 minutes of journaling a day. Like stop scrolling for 5 minutes, and actually do that. If you can do it before you go to bed or first thing in the morning, so when you don't have the phone as a distraction, that's the best time to do it, and to ask those questions. So what does self-love mean to me? And ask that question, because we never stop to ask ourselves any questions. You're always asking other people, how are you?
Yes.
But have you ever sat to say, how am I? How am I feeling today? Like, what is happening in my body? Oh, I'm feeling anxious. Why am I feeling anxious? Oh, because I've got this big presentation. But why am I feeling anxious about it? Like, it's this whole unraveling that you can do. You can do literally with a pen and paper. So my first tip is to do the journaling. If you can, do a 5-minute meditation that also allows you.
I won't lie,
Do guided.
meditation is, yes. I was going to say, for me, I found that to sit and just be.
It's hard. So hard.
There are many things that seem easier. Sit in a movie theater, sit and watch people sit, but to just sit with the thing you came in with and just park there has been for me one of the most humbling experiences, and it teaches me so much. And I find that I don't even need to go out and look at other people. It's like, ooh, there's discomfort.
Happening, yeah.
Yeah, like I don't
Who's
know.
this guy?
Yeah, closing the eyes for an extended period. Is this who I am? And I think it's why I also tell people it's very good to have somebody who can support you, like yourself, who has walked the path, who understands some of the pitfalls, who understands what you could potentially find there, because we all have lived a life and we might have traumas or things that we might not be aware of. And it's the trainers, it's the people who have learned, and the teachers who generally help you through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You need to feel safe. Some people might have had trauma and closing their eyes is not comfortable for them. So that's another tip. Like if you've been through trauma and so closing your eyes is just like a no-go, then it's just, gently gazing down at the ground. So you're still going within. And guided meditation is so much better. So when you say meditation, everyone's like, I don't want to sit quiet for that long. But if you use an app, my favorite is Insight Timer. If you do that, it's so good. And it's the best one, technically. But you just listen. You find someone you like. I mean, there's so many. I love so many different people. Sarah Blondin, there's Koya Webb, I can give you a whole list. But you find someone whose voice resonates with you and their words. And you just pop on a 5-minute meditation. You're listening to these words. If you're feeling anxious, search anxiety meditation or self-love or grounding or enthusiasm, whatever you need, just typing that in and finding that meditation for you. And it's actually so nice. It's like listening to a story.
It is.
I think people complicate it too much. It's like journaling. Everyone complicates it and makes it this huge thing where it's literally just asking yourself questions. And the same with meditation. It's just going quiet and listening to the little story that they're telling you, and then seeing how you react to it, and then journal after that and see what comes up.
So when it comes to that, once you're kind of starting in that initial phase, I know there's a varying period for where you might end, or how long it might take for you to end up where you ideally are wanting to be somebody who can assimilate certain situations in life in a more holistic and balanced way. But where do you say somebody's healthy, or as a benchmark healthiness when it comes to their own self-love and how they are? So what are some of those key marks that you feel?
So there are so many different ones, and you might feel healthy in your body but not healthy in your mind. You might feel healthy, and I think also life ebbs and flows. So something could happen that now mentally you're not feeling where you should. You could have a trauma, a loss, you could have disappointments. But for me, with the whole self-love, it's not being triggered so much. Like when you can respond instead of react to people, like you're not triggered by every situation. That's when you're not self-aware. Is when you're getting triggered by everything, and then you don't actually notice afterwards. So I could be triggered by something, and then I'm like, ooh, why was I triggered by that? Why did she make me feel like that? And then you realize. So when you become self-aware by doing the work on yourself and learning all these things, you're able to diffuse situations quicker as well. So it doesn't become this huge, like, bomb blast because you've just been pushing it down like, oh no, I'm just deal with this another time. You actually work through it. Yeah. So for me, like, because I've worked in the health aspect of the outside for so long, I'm not even worried about that anymore. Even when clients come to me for yoga or training, I'm like, cool, let's work on the inside first, because as a byproduct, the outside's going to change. Whereas before I was so focused on the outside and a little bit on the inside. It's the default. And now it's like flipped, and it makes such a difference because you are so much healthier mentally, spiritually, emotionally by working on yourself and learning to love yourself, which it is a journey. It's never going to end, but it changes everything in your life. So it makes everything else easier to navigate. But the outside isn't so important to me when I'm working with clients anymore. I'm like focused on the inside. And then when you're happier within yourself, you will start to want to work on the outside if that's what you want. Not everyone needs to lose weight. Not everyone needs to be a certain size. Like if that is your true self and who you feel most comfortable in, and that is you, that is your honor to yourself, is to be that person. So I think that's also like coming from that industry, like what I've learned through the years with this new brand and with the self-love brand is like everyone needs to be who they want to be, and it's not our job to tell them who they should be. They need to look within themselves and they need to say, oh, this is me, this is me, this is who I am, and I'm so happy and I'm so comfortable. And then everyone else needs to honor that as well and say, okay, cool. Because some people are super healthy and you judge them because you think that because that's not your version of health and what you think healthy should look like. But your mental health could be really terrible and you could be in the best shape of your life.
That's true.
And that other person that you're judging is healthier than you in every aspect.
I tell people that could literally be the dichotomy of life, and I've come across it so many times sitting with a patient opposite me, and we were talking about how everything's great here, but you might be, the antidepressants have to go up and this and then anxiolytics, and so it's almost like, and I love, and I feel like we're gonna keep saying this, the inside,
we're just like
the inside is the thing that counts, because it's also your barometer. It lets you know, okay, yeah, this is actually what I want, because once you figure out what you want, then happiness, joy, and just the fulfillment also comes into play. But let's say we figured it out. Let's say we know what we want, but we also like people to be happy around us because we don't want people to feel bad if we say no. But I kind of don't want to go to that thing because my mom makes me feel not so great, or I might be doing something on that day.
But I'm a people pleaser.
Yeah, that's the problem, right? Because we want everybody to feel good. Everyone. Yeah, everybody must be happy in my vicinity. But my boundaries, like, so how does somebody actually, in a healthy way, set a boundary and not necessarily hit somebody over the head with a club?
Boundary. I'm the queen of boundaries too.
That's why I was asking you. I figured I was in your domain. I was in your realm. I might as well get the know-how.
Yeah, I'll teach you. So
thank you.
I think, and I was actually talking to someone the other day about it, because I don't mind conflict anymore. I used to hate conflict. And I think it's because being a trainer for 14 years, you have to beg for your money half the time. Yeah. So I've always messaging clients, hey, don't forget you owe me money. And then
you have the hey voice, because that's how you start the message. Hey, smiley face.
Yes.
Sorry.
All the emojis. All of the emojis. Soften it. And then I'm like, just a reminder. And then I'll just send it every day. I'm that person that will resend the email every day until someone actually, like a corporate, whatever it is, I'll resend. And then I'm like, oh, thank you. Oh, thanks so much for your payment. That was so great. So I don't mind conflict. Yeah. So I always have to write scripts for my friends with boundaries to send to people. You can always just message me.
That's what I was hoping you were going to give me an inkling of.
It's, a sandwich. You have to do the compliment, then the rah, and then the compliment at the end. Yes, just to make it nice and kind. But boundaries are so important because, and what I've learned, I think we all could go back to this, and Brene Brown is so good with this. She said that you must choose discomfort, you must choose, what is it? Oh, it'll come to me, over discomfort over, resentment. Yes. You must choose discomfort over resentment. So if you think about it, when you're saying no to something, you're like, oh, I can't say no to this, what excuse can I have? You can be uncomfortable sending that message for 5 seconds, or you can resent that person for 5 days, 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years.
That's actually very true.
Right? So it could be about a birthday party, it could be about moving in with someone, it could be moving out, it could be anything. And usually it's family orientated, I find. It could be work, but you would end up resenting that person and it never goes away.
Yeah.
Because you can still think of someone from 5 years ago that person did this and why am I not talking to that person again? Oh, I can't even remember what they did, but I remember that I don't like them and I resent them because we didn't say no. And we need to have boundaries within ourselves first and then have the boundaries with other people. So it's almost like making a manifesto for yourself. This is what I'm willing to put up with and this is what I'm not. So I also say boundaries is all about self-respect.
Yeah.
So you need to respect yourself enough to say no. because if you don't and you keep being a doormat, you're going to resent everyone. And then they're going to keep coming after you. It's like if you have a colleague and then they're like, oh, please, I'm just going away. I'm shooting out the door. Can you just do this report for me? And if you do it once, they know. They got you every time.
Susan.
They're like, oh, that's
Susan.
Oh, who's Susan?
Oh, no, sorry. We'll talk about it.
I'll send you a script for Susan. Yeah, so they will take advantage every time because you're the weak link now. You've said yes, and they know, oh, I'm just going to work on her. Oh, shame. She's an empath, especially if you're an empath and you love to people please. They're like, oh, just get her to do that. It'll be fine. So it's having that respect and saying, this is what I'm willing to put up with, and I'm going to tolerate this, but I'm not going to tolerate that. So I think everyone's boundaries are different. And I say, when I have retreats, I always say to them, you know, if there are certain people that are really bad with you and family and you need to set hard lines, like it's almost like drawing a permanent marker circle around yourself. There are some people that maybe, and you don't feel comfortable, like I'm like a permanent marker, I'm like, boom, done. Sorry, I'm here, you're there, it's not happening. Yeah. But when you're learning to set boundaries, maybe it's a chalk line around you so that there's certain people that you choose where you want to blur the lines, not them.
Sure.
You need to choose where to blur the lines. And then, you know, some situations you can, okay, I'll do it. A little bit. But, you know, having that security of feeling you're inside, no one can get to you, you make the decisions. And the thing with boundaries as well is it takes practice. And once you say no, you'll be so liberated that you'll be like, no. You have to practice feeling comfortable with saying no.
With it, yeah.
Like I always say, like practice with a friend even. Send me a message, tell me no. Or like saying it out loud. And once it's like muscle memory. Once you start saying it.
Then you're flexing on everybody.
Exactly.
Then it's just, you're the no queen, no king.
No. I did the year of no. So there was that book that Shonda Rhimes wrote and was like the year of yes.
Yes, yeah.
And I read it and then I'm like, I think it was actually 2020. I think I read it in 2019 and then 2020 came. I was like, the year of no. But I said no and allowed myself to say no to every event or party or whatever, weddings. I allowed myself to say no. And it was so freeing. I was like, no, I'm doing the year of no. And
almost, like you're jumping into that fear point or leaning into a fear point. David Goggins loves to talk about that. He's the hammer type of energy where he'll be like, you need to back yourself. But I think it all kind of comes together with being able to go, this is what I feel I'm worth. And to say no isn't necessarily a negative thing that I'm pushing on them, but it's something that I'm showing to myself. Yes. And I think that is going to be a big takeaway message from just today and sitting down. And I know it's something I continuously try to work out on the gym. But speaking of things that we need to do, I never let people go before they've given me a list. Now, this list varies from person to person, and I really need it to be quick, fast, quick fire, so you don't expect, I do like this person, but this person's not in it. But for you, 3 of your top, be it teachers, guru's a word I like to use, but not somebody who's necessarily kind of cultish element, but somebody who gives out information that's very useful and you found incredibly useful. Your top 3. First one, boom.
Okay, so Brene Brown.
Brene Brown.
Gabby.
Just quickly, why?
Wow, because she's all about boundaries, and yeah, I think she's good with boundaries and being vulnerability, and she's relatable.
Get to
that. Gabby Bernstein for manifesting and trusting the universe and just all that kind of stuff.
Bringing all that good stuff to you. And number 3?
3.
Ooh, come on.
I want to say Oprah, but that's so like
no, that's too easy.
I'm trying to think who I...
Unselfishly Me.
Oh, myself.
The podcast of Unselfishly Me, absolutely incredible mind, has given us so many experiences, multiple episodes, maybe even more than what we have, and talks about incredible journeys that everybody goes through. You were going to say that person,
Yes,
right?
I was going to say that person.
G.I. Jane?
She seems amazing.
Okay, I would have gone with that person first, but maybe that's just me. Jane, thank you so much for sitting down with me. We don't have a lot of time, but that just means that we could have you on more episodes. And clearly there's a lot more work that people need to know about, and hopefully I can also learn from. It's been another episode of Medshield Movement Connect show with another phenomenal human and me just absorbing the information, just feeling very, very unselfishly me, very lovingly me. See you guys next time. Dr. Fair signing out.